Hello, good people of YouTube, Mountbatten here. Today, I'm going to go over some small tweaks and some larger tweaks as to what I would do in order to rein in the mess that is AA right now. Now, this comes as a response to some comments put on the What Even Is AA video that I put out some time ago. That video is mostly talking about clan battles and how in clan battles, especially once you get up to the higher leagues, it really doesn't matter what you do with AA. Very skilled CV players can minimize the damage they take to an extreme degree, so much so that your AA just feels like it's not doing anything. And this is compounded by the fact that CVs are balanced for a 12v12 game mode and not for a 7v7 game mode. So the issue arises when you have obviously more planes that are intended to be used in a 12v12 game mode, which are now only have to deal with the combined AA of 7 ships. Which realistically they're not going to have to deal with a combined AA of 7 ships because most clans will split up their ships to hold either flank in a competitive clan battle setting. And yes, a single push is a strategy that is a thing in clan battles, but often doesn't work too well. Now, in random battles, the issues are much less present, but they're still there. It's what the CVs were designed for. They're designed for a 12v12 game mode. And in my honest opinion, most CVs are fine as is in a 12v12 game mode. Richtofen's a little bit strong. FDR is very strong at the moment. But honestly, for the most part, the other carriers are fine, with maybe an issue here or there, like Enterprise, which has been removed. But we're just going to run through a couple of changes that I would do that I think would help rein in a lot of the frustration that arises even in random battles as well, and most certainly in clan battles. So, the first change I would suggest is that DFAA should have its old gimmick back, where it would panic the planes upon it being activated. For those of you that don't know, before the CV rework, DFAA would cause the planes to panic, thereby increasing the dispersion of the drop and also increasing the RNG of the drop to where you could have some pretty funky drops. Now, I wouldn't set it that high. I would have it affect two elements of the plane drops. First off, it would increase the aiming time of the drop for about 3 to 5% depending upon tier. Lower tier would have less of an effect, so like 3%. Higher tier ships DFA would have more of an effect, so around 5%. And also to increase the dispersion on the drops. Lower tier, again, somewhere around 3%. Higher tier, again, somewhere around 5%. So that way it has that added effect, because DFA now, most of the damage goes to flak, which is easily dodgeable, especially for a highly skilled CV player. So this would add that effect on top of the flak, which again is pretty easy to dodge for a pretty competent CV player, to where the player popping it would have the guaranteed knowledge of, okay, even if he gets through the flak, I'm going to have a bit better chance of dodging his drop. Now, the effect's also low enough to where if the CV player still aims properly and the ship being attacked fails to dodge and fails to maneuver, they're still going to eat the attack, because a 5% increase on dispersion, it's not going to cause your torpedoes to, go opposite away from each other like they're opposite ends of a magnet, but, it's going to give them a bit more of a gap to work with. And especially with how close some CVs can get and still drop their torpedoes and still have pretty darn good dispersion on their drop, again, it's not going to have a huge effect. But if the ship being attacked responds right, if they're already maneuvering, if they're focusing their AA, if they're popping DFA at the right time, it will give them a better chance of making it out of that confrontation with less damage, not only with torpedoes but with dive bombers as well, and again with rocket planes as well. The next thing I suggest is that fighters need to simply latch faster. I mean, I have no shortage of footage of fighters just ignoring planes as they fly through their combat radius, and they just fail to act. And I tried to find a hardline number from the wiki, from the How It Works video on YouTube, and from the forums, but I couldn't find a hardline number for how long it takes these fighters to latch. I've heard it's around 5 seconds, and if that's true, I think it needs to be cut down to somewhere around 3 seconds. Or whatever number it is now, it needs to be decreased by about 40 seconds, because even when they do latch, the fighters have to catch up to the attacking planes. And with something like Richtofen, that's simply not going to happen. Fighters are incredibly easy to deal with in Richtofen. You just hold down W. That's all you got to do. Now, some other carriers, you do have to have a bit more skill involved with, timing your attack run and when to boost out of the attack or when to boost into the attack, this, that, and the other. But for the most part, it seems like it's a non-issue to a lot of CV players, and I heard a lot, especially read a lot in the comment section of the prior video, that they're really meant to be a deterrent. Okay, they are a deterrent, but a deterrent is supposed to have consequences if you choose to ignore that deterrent. So why should the fighters be incredibly crappy with dealing with aircraft when it's what they're designed to deter? Because right now, again, especially in clan battles and even in random battles to an extent, it seems like if a CV wants to get through, they will, and they won't really lose much planes for it. So I think that's a major issue that needs to be addressed. Next change I would suggest is that AA mounts should be repairable, up to a certain percentage. So CVs can reproduce planes magically in-game. Why can't surface ships repair their AA mounts? Up to a certain percentage, and at a certain speed. So right off the bat, I would say somewhere around 75 to 80% of your AA should be repairable over time. Something like maybe one AA mount is repaired every neighborhood of 20 to 40-ish seconds. Again, just ballparking it out as an idea. I don't have any hardline figures or anything. Just saying about 20 to 40 seconds. Because if you look at any higher tier battleship or cruiser, there's AA all over the place, especially if it's American. So it takes a while to repair all those mounts, even at like a 20-second clip. I mean, 20 seconds doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you have, good God, I mean, how many AA mounts does the Iowa have? Somewhere upwards of like 100 and something AA guns, if not way more. I mean, good God, it's going to take some time to repair any significant amount of those mounts, so I would think 20 seconds would be more than enough, but again, it could be tweaked as we go along, so it's a flexible number, as for what I'm suggesting at least. Again, this is all just a suggestion. And especially with the amount of HE being thrown around in game right now that absolutely wrecks AA, especially British battleship HE. I mean, good God, you can need one salvo from a Thunderer or Conqueror and literally 80% of your AA is gone like that. That's not fair, especially when like the Thunderer can reach out to 24 kilometers and reliably slap you at that range, and it can even go even further if you put the range mod on it, if you want to be that guy. But yeah, with the amount of HE spam in game right now and how easy it is for your AA mounts to be knocked out, and on most service ships, once something like 30% of your AA is gone, you are seriously boned at that point. So giving ships the ability to repair just enough of their AA to be, somewhat effective at dealing with CVs would be much appreciated, and again cut back on a lot of the frustration that we're seeing with surface ship versus plane interaction. Lastly, I believe that CVs shouldn't be exempt from fires. I don't know what logic is behind the current fire mechanics on CVs, which, if you didn't know, CV fires only burn for 5 seconds now. They burn at a quote-unquote higher ratio, but it's really not that higher, to where one fire will burn for about 2% of the CV's overall health. It's nothing. And it doesn't shut down flight operations for some reason. Back in the day, when the CV would be set on fire, and I've talked about this before, you couldn't launch planes and you couldn't recover aircraft because your flight deck was on fire. Makes sense. Why this was removed, I don't know. Especially in a carrier where they don't have to get within range of any artillery because they don't have any artillery. Planes are their damage dealing method. So if you're spotted and within gun range of surface ships and they set you on fire, that's your fault. You're being punished for misplaying your carrier. Carriers have to move, and a lot of carrier players can get away with just sitting where they're at, because even where they're at with their flight deck armor, especially higher tier carriers, nothing can really pin you. And then with the HE changes, I mean, what are you going to do? You do a little bit of HE damage and fire's going to burn for 5 seconds and your automatic damage con pops it, and then even if a fire is set on you after that, it's only going to burn for 5 seconds for 2% of your overall health. I mean, that's a joke. Now, I'm not saying, it should burn for the full 55 seconds, because again, you do all of your damage through planes, unless you're the Graf Zeppelin with the secondary build, Chad Graf Zeppelin over there. So maybe a 25-second burn time at with no flags, no captain skills, and if you spec into fire prevention like the rest of us are forced to do because of the HE spam in this game, you can get that number down a little bit and put your fire flag on. You get that number down a little bit now too, just like the rest of us. I don't see why they're exempt from this, and in my opinion, I think this should be implemented. I mean, no brainer. I don't know why it's removed. I mean, seriously, it doesn't make sense to me. And that was a legit strategy back in the day. The CV spotted, throw some HE at him, let's shut down his planes for a while, we can get some relief, and now our destroyer can, rocket planes weren't a thing back in the day, but nowadays, hey, let's shut down the CV to where you can't launch any rocket planes, to where now our DD can maybe rush him and have a chance of dealing with him now. Unless you're doing the 2-Kid and Akazuki division, which I assume is going to turn into the 2-Kid, the one Yang division, Yang gang over here with DFAA and deep water torpedoes and faster guns. Yeah, but I mean, again, I don't see why this is removed. Anyway, those are my 4 suggestions to tone back AA a bit now. And I really don't think, besides the AA mounts being repairable, these are any major changes. I mean, these are like seriously little tweaks that I really do think would improve random battles, CV versus surface ship interaction a lot, and cut back on a lot of frustration, especially on the feeling of my AA is basically useless nowadays. The AA mounts being repairable, that's a bit more of an extreme suggestion, and I would hope that whoever's watching this in Wargaming would maybe take a moment to look into that, because I do think it could prove to be a major solution to the problem right now, but again, not an overall fix, especially in clan battles. But anyway, guys, these are just some suggestions, some thoughts that I came up with over the past couple of days after the what even is AA video went up. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the channel, please do so on Patreon. That link is in the description down below. Funds there will go to fund ship reviews and help me out with other costs of running the channel. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys have a wonderful Saturday. And I also hope to catch you guys in the next one.